I definitely need to supplement my comment that was supposed to end just in this last part. I'll wed these two videos together, but I want to make sure I timestamp my original order of the Minor Arcana, which I began to do with the four deuces and got sidetracked. So I didn't make it far at all in the last comment. But my order of the Minor Arcana is, again, it does not get stuck in one quarter, because theoretically you'll be spending infinity in that quarter without ever moving on to the second go round. So the way the system does work, it cycles through the permutations of the level that it is at. So what we're doing, we're just mapping unity to plurality. And another way of saying that, unity to plurality, wholeness to division. That's all it is. That's all mystical philosophy is. Once you understand it, it's heaven to earth, yang to yin, and let me prove that right now. It's in the Kabbalah. Because firstly, because the last sefira, the number 10, is Malkut as the kingdom of earth. So right there you have 10 or 10 fingers and toes, symbolically, probably. Is that would be logical. It's like, well, that's the end of the human body. Here we are on earth. Number 10's the kingdom of earth. Not sure that's any of the logic that developed. Completely sensible though. And again, it's proven at least some pockets of Jewish people were adeptly studying Pythagorean mathematics as early as 0 AD. And the Kabbalah, as we know it, does not start until 1100. That's like 1,000 years ago. I mean, I'm not really the scholarship on that. There's always pockets of people that kind of get genius just studying math and stuff, I think. But anyway. And that's what happened. And you get pockets of people like showing adept shit in gematria and what was called word addition. That's really popular in ancient Greece. And then as such, the Jewish people take it into Hebrew, and you have examples of it back then. So. And then it doesn't take long, to kind of make some headway, or once you get going or something like that. But no, I was talking about the order of the Minor Arcana, and we're doing it here, boys. It's just unity to plurality. So let's go with the Bindu. You've got the day. It's technically the day, but you can say the Tao area, but it's the one, the Bindu, and it's the center point. And there's just the dot. Just imagine it's the dot. So the unity of the dot right here at the Sahasrara level breaks into two, and that's the two. They're called the unigrams of the Yi Jing, but they are not glyphed as separate as perhaps is first thought. They're glyphed as the Taijitu symbol, and that is attributed to the number 2 of Ḥokmah upon the tree of life, and associated with the two brain lobes of the left and right brain. And the goal is a nice flow state of knowingness, just casual truth, perhaps. Anyway, these are the actual numbered levels, and while we're doing this, I want you to visualize the fusee arrangement of the circle and the trigrams around it, because right now with the center and the Taijitu part, we're talking about the center of the circle and technically the realm of the spirit. So these are the levels, and see, this is how the tree of life interacts with the binary system, which is also correlated to the minor arcana of the tarot. So we're not talking about the major arcana. I mean, I did in that, but right now we're not. We're just noting the levels of the binary system is associated with the tree of life and the minor arcana. So we went through the point, and now the Taijitu is the number 2 is Ḥokmah. It's just the 2 unigrams. Okay. So where do the aces of the minor arcana exist? Is a good question. Because they're the 4 pure elements. So if we know where the minor arcana start on the tree of life, that would be helpful. It's just the aces are the pure elements of the minor arcana. So they exist in that space right after the Taijitu of Ḥokmah, because the 4 pure elements exist as kind of a phase space after the number 2. They're just not numbered. So it could be a fairly kind of large space, just like there's 16 court cards in the minor arcana that are not numbered, and that's the same symbolism. If you can figure that out, it's on the same hierarchical scale, but I can't get too in depth. We're just talking these simple levels, and I'm going to keep there until we're at the bottom level. It shouldn't be too bad. So the first 4, so the Taijitu of Ḥokmah, after the Taijitu of that nice 2 brain lobes working together, you get a kind of a mystical area of the 4 bigrams, the 4 elemental bigrams. Now they could be like some of the taste, smell, sight, and all that a little bit, but it's more just being pranic-like kind of descents of prana. They would be in the order of fire, air, water, earth, because the system becomes logical now in order of yang to yin, and fire and air are more yang than water and earth, the way it's associated. And then after those 4 bigrams, which are the 4 pure elements, so the 4 aces upon the minor arcana, we get into the first 8-fold division. So the division is actually, it may be, not at first apparent, but it's just like I was saying, the logical descent from unity to plurality using the binary system and how that divides as 1, 2, 4, 8, and then that's the end of the tree of life after the 8. After the 8. And then you have the 16-fold division of the binary system. That's the court cards of the Minor Arcana. And then you have the 32-fold division of the binary system. And that's the pip cards of the Minor Arcana, but it's the numbers 3 through 10, because we've already dealt with the deuces of the Minor Arcana, which I actually didn't say just then, but they are the 8 trigrams. So they're actually just 2 of the Sefirot of the Tree of Life, if you can imagine that. That's how the Tree of Life and Minor Arcana intersect. So, right after the number 2 of pure Ḥokmah, you have the 4 elements, pure elements coming off of that. That's the aces of the Minor Arcana. And then after those 4 pure elements, you get into the deuces of the Minor Arcana. And those are equivalent to 2 Sefirot on the Tree of Life. 2 trigrams. So each of the deuces of the Minor Arcana are composed of 2 planetary sefira. That's the key. They're each planets. Each of the Sefirot are planets. That's their major symbolism. And I already gave the history. It was in 1100, an Arabic manual first correctly associated the planets to the magic squares. And that's why the planets are associated to the numbers 3 through 10. I was trying to make that everything clear. That's like, you wouldn't even think to ask that question, but that's actually was the major magical act of humanity. Like, a lot of people want to get real mystical with this stuff. That was one of the most magical things going on that went on, because that's a hard correlation between number and the ancient planets, and it was logical. Everybody knows it as the Ptolemaic Order, but Ptolemy just borrowed it from the Greeks, and the Greeks borrowed it from what were called the Chaldeans, but pretty much are the Sumerians. So it was around like real anciently, but the Sumerians didn't really use it. They didn't base their heavenly order on it or anything. I do want to make that clear. The Greeks took it more and they started working out kind of orders, planetary orders a little more. And then finally, you get that order established. The original logic of that order was how long it took a planet to cross the sky as an observer looking at the horizon to the other horizon. The ancients would note how long a specific planet took to cross the entire sky, because some of them have bizarre retracements and orbits, just because the ancients didn't know it's actually a heliocentric solar system. So if you follow the way the planets are going across the sky, you get often odd geometric patterns. And that's why the planets were originally associated with wanderingness, and they were called the the wandering planets. the wandering planet, doesn't really, because they were kind of luminous, being large, some to the naked eye, and they would say wandering planets. So they didn't fully understand it, but they understood to note which planet took the longest to cross over the horizon versus which took the shortest amount of time, and they began to associate those with symbolic ideas, which are philosophically important to note, and that is the basis for our present symbology of the ancient planets, that ancient order, because what happens, it gets more popularized with the Greeks, the logic behind that order of the planets. So where Saturn's the top, because Saturn takes forever to, so that was a slow planet. So you get those gods kind of being born out of the Sumerian mythology. You get kind of Greek parallels. You get parallels wanting to be started. So eventually you just have those cool Latin planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, the moon goddess, whether Selene or whatnot, and then I like to say, even at 10, this wasn't classic, but you can assert a earth goddess as like Terra in Latin for the number 10 even. So that really did have to go into how magic it was, even for that specific logic that the planets are based upon, to be associated with the numbers of the magic squares. Because when you actually do a philosophical investigation of the symbology, they become united. Like the number 4, the magic square of 4, that's associated with Jupiter and good luck. And when you just look at that magic square, you can kind of sense good fortune from it. I guess I might be a little. That's not real. I can't really prove that one. But let's take the next example of the Mars magic square, where within the center, that's the 5x5 square. There's pretty good history on that, but this is just off the cuff a little bit. There's an equilateral cross that forms just naturally within the magic square of 5x5, and that equilateral cross is all spirit. So that actually is the equilateral cross of the Holy Spirit. Some people know it as like the red cross, but just imagine the red cross, a white cross, and then imagine a 5x5 grid upon it, and you get that is actually the 5, because that's the part. The 5x5 magic square is like the harmony of the 4 elements and the 5th of spirit, and that 5th of spirit area forms the equilateral cross. So that's actually symbolically a proof of spirit as the cross, and can be linked to Keter. Anyway, so I got on the topic of the magic square. Let's end that and continue with how the Minor Arcana intersects with the Tree of Life. So we were on we knew the 4 deuces of the Minor Arcana are 2 Sefirot each of the tree of life. So that's exactly how they intersect. It really is as simple as that. Each suit has 2 Sefira. The fire suit would be Saturn and Jupiter, Binah and Ḥesed, and just extend that on down. Okay, so after Malkut, as the last all-yin trigram, and then the 2 of coins would be the moon and planetary earth as Yesod and Malkut Sefirot. That's the 2 of coins right there. Okay, so it's pretty crazy. And after that is just the core cards of the Minor Arcana. That's really simple. It doesn't get numbered. So right after the Tree of Life, as we commonly depict it, you'll have to imagine the 16 court cards. But if you have been, like I told you, probably half hour ago, to imagine the Fuzi arrangement, it's really simple, because now you're just imagining the next circle out. We've already imagined that. We've already imagined the Bindu as the center point of the circle, the Taijitu as kind of the outer edge of the circle, and then the 8 and then the 4 bigrams as the cardinal directions. They're starting to form, and then the 8 trigrams around that, and those are that's Sefirot 3 through 10 of the Tree of Life, and the 4 deuces of the Minor Arcana, and that circle, and that's what we've done. And now, all you have to imagine when you're doing the Fuzi arrangement is just the next outer circle of 16 tetragrams, they're called, which are the elemental counterchanges: fire of fire, air of fire, water of fire, earth of fire, fire of air, air of air, water of air, earth of air, etc. And that was in the south and east. Okay? And that's the pip cards, because we've already dealt with the deuces. So that next outer area are the pip cards 3 through 10 of each suit of the Minor Arcana. And that's the entire Minor Arcana right there. We just solved it. Kaboom. And so it's not at all mystical. It's just postulating 4 elements and 8 planets to like a magical type of universe. And that was done by the Greeks, and then the planets kind of cropped up, and you can just use the planetary Earth as the last trigram for the binary system. And so the occult, the magic aspect is that the people correlated the planets to the magic squares in the numbers 3 through 10. So that's getting back to my overarching main point. I kind of harp on that, like that was the major act of humanity to arrive at that. Once you philosophically investigate, because those have to be kind of meaningful for kind of life to be in the system. But once you see that, it's pretty cool. It's just basically the planet Saturn through the moon and Earth were correlated to the magic squares 3 through 9 and the number 10, and those were used for various type of like protection, kind of early talismanic uses. It was their main. And it was a lot more practical than you think. It's like associated with like magic or something. It's just like it was a little bit more taken as practical even for some of that, because it was just like, you know, don't have a doctor here, you know, get some good luck going at least, or something like that. Anyway, so we're still dishing it out. So that's the entire Minor Arcana, but I do want to stress that there is a circle outside the 32 pentagrams, which would be the 64 hexagrams, and that's about the only thing people usually know of the binary system, is that 64 fold outer layer of hexagrams that the Chinese brought forth and used as a divination system. And then the 16 grams of geomancy with the points, that's just the 16 tetragrams of the binary system and correlated to the court cards. So it's in that level. So the actual correct way to imagine the binary system is to visualize the Fuzi arrangement and not really the tree of life. So, but it's cool to, you know, go back and forth or whatever. You can go back and forth. But it's basically just a logical number system when you get down to it, is what I want to stress. And that's taken as like the basis of magic, just because it's such a good categorization. It's like it was an ancient symbolic categorization system and scheme. So we can get into the numbers, but I want to first stress that it's called, I like to call it the Chaldean Order. I don't know. I just like that terminology, I guess. But it's found in Ptolemy popularized it, and then it became the standard model of the heavens up until Copernicus gained headway. So it's so crazy that happened. Let me state, I don't even know if anybody, these people studying like the Hermetic Kabbalah, a lot of them are just unaware pseudo thinkers. But here's a really hilarious thing. I mean, it's not too weird, but the ancient planet that was popularized by Ptolemy, everybody thought that was just fact. I mean, back then there was a little bit of there was deity infused in that worldview. I'm not gonna lie, it's like, because deity was first, and then you have like some angelic realms, but then finally the planets. There's not too much separation. You've got the zodiac belt, kind of like, and the fixed stars. That's kind of like the same kind of thing. The zodiac belt and the fixed stars can kind of be the same kind of deal. But then right below that, you've got those 7 planets. So it's really a cool, and that was their standard worldview. Okay. So this is funny. It's hilarious, because that wasn't the Jewish worldview. By the way, so that's even kind of more humorous. So the humorous thing right here, let me tell it. What was standard? That was the standard worldview in those, but then that got like that gets upturned with Copernicus. And then everybody like eventually develops that scientific the common scientific worldview that everybody's used to, but now, like with the Golden Dawn, basically in 1900, you can just say in 1900, basically Europeans start studying the Kabbalah and getting creative with it, and really start to correlate ancient symbolism to it. So where I'm not saying like it wasn't theretofore as like a side notation, maybe, you know, and stuff like that, but it just gets right into the dominant literature that the planets get correlated to the tree of life, to the Sefirot of the tree of life. So it just came. So the hilarious part is it just totally came full circle. So that Greek Chaldean, well, the Chaldean Order got popularized with the Greeks. Like Plato had his kind of own order, but then with it's predicted that Diogenes was probably the first to carry the Chaldean Order to the Greeks, and then the Stoics popularized it even more, and then Ptolemy finally, you know, it got pretty kind of blown up by then, and then we just get that common Jacob's ladder of the planets. So where you have just a built-in initiatory scheme, and you have that theme throughout history, with just a kind of a Jacob's ladder of the planets. The human soul goes right up, you know, right on up through the moon to Saturn, on up into the zodiac, and then it gets, you know, angelic, and then to the, you know, to the right before the throne of God, you know, right up to the Deus, or the Deus point, the God point, or the Theos point. So that's pretty much like it's inherent. The tree of life is kind of even inherent, as we know it, is inherent in that system. But I kind of want to stress that that wasn't the traditional Jewish tree of life. Only once it became westernized did the Western attributions start to become placed upon the tree of life. And how they did that, they just followed the magic squares. So it just made total sense, because the numbers 3 through 10 were associated with the magic squares 3 through 10, and those magic squares had been associated with the planets since the year 1100. So that's how it all makes sense, and that's why I say that's the underlooked major magical act by humanity that just kind of went unnoticed and was completely innocent. But you put the planetary correlations of 3 through 10 together with kind of a Taoist philosophy of the number 2 being the Taijitu of the male and female going in harmonious love under will, mid-state unity, beingness, you put that as the number 2 together with the number 1, just as the simple point, the Bindu point, and as pure, undifferentiated Holy Spirit. And that's basically the entirety of the system, because what it does, it follows the binary system. So you have 1 as the point, 2 as the Taijitu. There's an area of elemental symbolism of the 4 bigrams of the binary system, and just of the elements. And then the numbers 3 through 10 come in right along as the 8 planets. So what you get the binary system is primarily being just composed of the elements in the planets, which makes sense because, as we say, the entire thing is just the condensation of unity into plurality. How unity manifests, it manifests truly into plurality, and you can kind of use some number systems to map that. So I think we've got it right there. I broke it down to the 64 hexagrams of the Yijing, just being further bifurcations of the pip cards 3 through 10 of each elemental suit of the Minor Arcana. That's all they are. They're just planetary pure planetary counter changes, because there's 64 of them and there's 8 planets. So the first 8 hexagrams of the Yijing would have these following correlations: Saturn of Saturn, Jupiter of Saturn, Mars of Saturn, Sun of Saturn, Venus of Saturn, Mercury of Saturn, Moon of Saturn, and planetary Earth of Saturn, and etc. Following that logic. So that's all that is, and that's kind of where the magic stops. That's why there's no sense to go into the 128 septagrams of the binary system. It would just be it would be non-meaningful. So the non-meaningful with this philosophy is the non-magical. So that's where the magic ends, pretty much, with the 64 hexagrams of the Yijing. And that's why, and so you can imagine the whole thing is a probability cloud of kind of manifestation. And that's where the Abrahadabra, so-called, kind of just naturally is summated, because you've got the planetary counter changes, and the entire Yijing is pretty much just composed upon of the elements in the planets, other than the Taijitu and the Bindu. It's just the elements and planets. So that was that's the levels of the system. So let me be clear of how I do actually order the Minor Arcana of the tarot. You would have the 4 aces, and then you would have the 4 deuces, and then right below that, unbeknownst to everybody, I said like 2 hours ago, and then forgot that train of thought to actually jubilate upon this remarkable discovery, is the correct order of the Minor Arcana is the aces, the deuces, and then the 16 court cards. Nobody would ever expect that. And then it's the pip cards 3 through 10. It's crazy. And that's the same way you order playing cards. Truly, if you did it like truly by divinity, by inspiration from unity to plurality, you would order the playing cards ace, deuce, and then the king, queen, and jack, and then the 3 through 10. So nobody would ever guess that. So that's actually how you do order the minor arcana of the tarot, because it's in by number. So in the tarot, the 4 aces are 4 in number. The 4 deuces are actually 8 in number, because each deuce is composed of 2 trigrams, which are 2 sefirot on the tree of life. But each deuce has 2 trigrams associated to it, because each deuce partakes of the innate Taijitu principle of nature that is displayed upon Ḥokmah of the tree of life. So it's amazing. So I want to stress the true order of the minor arcana are the 4 aces, the 4 deuces, and then the 16 court cards, which are unnumbered, because with the aces and deuces, that's essentially 1 and 2 of each suit. You got these 16 court cards that are unnumbered in each suit, and then below that are the numbers 3 through 10 as the pip cards of each suit. I will celebrate with that. I think I just pretty much at last spoke the Mick Jagger speak, and almost completely related the correct attributions of the minor arcana to the tree of life, to the binary system, and then gave the hierarchy. It's just the hierarchy of the binary system. So it's 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 plus 32 plus 64. And that's all it is, but it takes forever to explain the reason why. And then the tree of life, as most people know it, is just that 8. It's like the whole thing to include the 8 trigrams. So it's all at that level. So the tree of life encompasses the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 8. So the first 4 levels of the binary system. The 4 elemental bigram level is just hidden between the numbers 2 and 3. So that's woo! That's genius. Took me quite a while to figure that out. And then even figuring how the playing cards correlated to, and how the minor arcana fit in. Ooh, it was wild. It was like, oh my goodness. There's some other few other wild things I don't even want to go into it, man. Everybody got it, because that's how that. So the first time in history, someone has figured out exactly the true nature of the playing cards, of how playing cards fit in with the binary system. And nobody's really even thought of that beyond perhaps the 4 aces as the 4 elements, and perhaps making that association with the Yi Jing, because the only 2 set of permutations in the Yi Jing Classic are the 4 element, the 4 bigrams, the 8 trigrams, and the 64 hexagrams. So they didn't really ascribe the 8 trigrams to the planets like I'm doing. This is all me, because it's all so logical to ascribe the 4 bigrams to the elements, and then the 8 trigrams to the 8 planets. You get a wonderfully magical system right there that fits right in with the traditional minor arcana 4 element system. that, you know, the playing cards exhibited during their evolution. All right. So I did want to make that perfectly clear. My order of the Minor Arcana is the 4 aces, the 4 deuces, the 16 court cards, and then the pips 3 through 10 of each suit. It doesn't go one suit at a time. It goes Ace of Wands, Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups, Ace of Coins, on down the ladder to the 10 of Coins, including the 16 court cards. That equals 56 cards of the Minor Arcana, and then you add that to my supposed 37-fold tarot key cards sheets, and you get a 93-fold tarot, which I would love to paint beautifully, but geez, man, don't have time for all of that stuff. I would love to have a immaculately painted tarot card suddenly, 93-fold tarot card deck suddenly manifest with all the appropriate binary system grams on it. That would be wonderful, but I haven't gotten that into manifestation. I'm getting this knowledge out for free. It's like an open-ended philosophical system, so people can make strides with it now, and heck, hey, publish it. I'm not really doing the money train thing on my philosophic research, but I was just happy to I'm just happy to timestamp it because I'm proud of my correlations. So I'm just happy to actually communicate the knowledge first off, of course, and then to timestamp everything, just to make everything clear, and to communicating it helps me write about it a little bit, know which points sound good, what doesn't. So I'm sure I have to groove on out here. Look at that, 20. We'll be seeing you, snuckers. 20 of 20. No time for goodbye there, huh? All right. Let's go. Love is the law, love under will. Wait, no. I wanted to say Abrahadabra, because that is the word. So we'll go, do what the wilt shall be the whole of the law. It's the entirety of Thelema. The law of Thelema can be summed in one page. Now take that as opposite the Bible, which is like thousands of pages. You can condense Thelema and all religion, I propose, down to one page, and basically a triune letter of communication. And it begins, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and it ends, love is the law, love under will. Those are the two major axioms of it, and they are shorthanded into will and love. So it's basically, at the top you have will, and at the bottom you've got love. So quite literally, you just got a little equation there, and just imagine a t-shirt that says will love from top to bottom, and that's the basic on one sheet of paper. It would just be will love there, and then right in the center, or as the combination of both, and in the book of the law, the equation as is written as quotations, love under will. So quite literally, that equation where you have the word will above the word of love. I feel kind of stupid even pointing it out, but I'm not even. I mean, I don't even see that. I don't even see that word magic equation being printed anywhere. So that's the major formula of Thelema, believe it or not. Love under will, just like that. And you bring the only thing left, you just bring in the triad to that. And that equals the child, and then you get into Jesus, happy Jesus. Like the golden child, a Horus. You can just any kind of man. It's like the original man, the original human at that point. Because you have Mercury as the caduceus wand. So you have God Mercury holding the caduceus wand. It's basically just him as the child or the original person, because he's holding basically a trident. It's basically just a trident of father and mother, and he's the child. So it's just really basic symbolism. And then him as the kind of communicator. He's at the crossroads. So that's where everything meets. So that's where the father and the mother meet. And if you imagine those as the two philosophic necessities, mathematical necessities of zero and infinity, that which the line drawn, the line drawing anyway, that pair together is Mercurius. And that the original human right there, the original being. And that's why the third chapter of Liber Legis begins with Abrahadabra, because that's basically when the real universe is created, at that Abrahadabra point, at the intersection of the father and mother, is when the child is created. And that's in the book of the law, the first word is Abrahadabra. It's the formula of that, the unity of father and mother. So it's wonderful triune word philosophy, magic kind of stuff. It's just will, love, and then in the center it's Abrahadabra, and it's like Crusos. It's a hexagram. It's basically just the hexagram, where you can just imagine the Star of Israel, and then you imagine that has an up and a down pointing triangle to form the hexagram. Well, the child is the entire hexagram, but the upward pointing triangle is the father, and the downward pointing triangle is the mother. So within the symbolism of the hexagram is both the father and mother conjoined, and the golden hexagram would be the golden child deal. And that's also the point in the circle, and both the sun symbol of the point and the circle. So I've got to leave it there, guys. I was on 20. So I was going to end it with the Ptolemaic axioms, I think has got. Swish or sweet? No, never. I'll drink 3 shots at least. No, most. Nope. I don't have any. I'm just kidding. Anyway. Love is the law. Love under will.